Springbok squad for the June-July internationals, folks. For most squads, it's July, but for the Boks, starting a bit early with their initial match up against the Barbarians. It's a big squad. 45 guys is the number they have whittled it down to. Remember, it initially started with alignment camps, and they had an initial kind of 54 guys? They've released a few, and we're down to 45 players, down to. That's still bigger than most other teams have named with their squads. But if there's one thing we know about Rassie, he doesn't really go with the kind of conventional wisdom aspect. He does what he thinks is right for the squad, and for him so far it's tended to work out pretty well. We'll go through the squad, some of the kind of ins and outs, the injuries, the fixtures, expectations. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how they're going to go. I get the feeling the squad is probably a bit bigger than the others, partially because of that scheduling of the Barbars game. Like, they've got some of the players available in training for a wee while now, but like the Bulls guys have arrived late. Archias Neyman's arrived late with the URC final. Pollard and Thomas Dutoy have arrived late. Bonfenta, I think, is arriving late from Edinburgh. So, yeah, they've had to get a squad ready for this Barbars game, 28th of June, in the knowledge that some of the guys would either be arriving late or potentially unavailable. So, probably that's part of the reason for the squad being a wee bit bigger. And it's also a wee bit older. I've been talking about it for a wee while, that every time the squads are all named, of All Blacks and Wallabies and England and France and whatnot, we tend to look at the ages. Like Ireland and South Africa seem to be the squads which just tend to be a bit older. And again, it maybe goes against the kind of conventional wisdom thing, that other coaches start to phase guys out after they hit 30 or 32, 34 or whatever. Rassie is quite happy to keep picking the veteran players. Like, there's more guys who are 33 and older in the squad than are like 25 and under. So it's certainly more senior than most of the other squads. And then, Bongi's 34, Vincent Cox 35, Sia's 34, Mostert's 34, Ebbins 33. In the backs, like Reinach's 35, Villi is 35, Mapimpi's 34. So Mapimpi's been in cracking form. Of all the Sharks guys who putting his hand up, if you feel like Mapimpi's one of them. So, yeah, it's partly experience, it's partly form, partly balancing things out. It is always interesting to see the way Rassie picks his team. There's also a bunch of unavailable players due to injury. The prop depth is going to get a bit tested. Steenekamp and Mkunu unavailable due to injury. Peter Steph Dutoy, Cameron Hanekom, Jon Augustus, Lucanio obviously Frans Malherbe hasn't played any rugby for a long time. Stephen Kitsoff had to retire. So there's a bunch of guys just unavailable, but it is going to be exciting to see the South African prop depth get a bit tested. Marnus van der Merwe getting called up as the hooker is an interesting one, the Scarlet's hooker, because he's been a great threat at the breakdown. So with him and Marks in the mix, you could have a lot of potential ball won at the breakdown from your hookers if those guys both get selected. But it seems like he maybe has surpassed the likes of Grobelaar and Dweber as that potential next cab off the rank at hooker. So interesting selection. And then you got three uncapped props with the 32-year-old Fushi, who's a little bit older than what you usually see for guys potentially getting their test debut. But again, forget conventional wisdom. Rassie wisdom, look what he did with Dion Fourie in the last kind of World Cup cycle. So the age thing doesn't seem to matter. So Fushi gets a call up. And then the Lions' massive tight head in Tlabakanye, he's 153 kilos. So literally massive. I looked up his stats in preparation for this video because I just like to see, kind of who's excelling at what. The dude had a clean break in the URC season. How does a guy who's 153 kilos still manage to clock up a clean break? Don't know if I'd want to be the guy stepping in front of him, but yeah, he's certainly a big unit. Then Bonfenta seems to have changed his mind, because I think he was angling for a Scottish call-up with his residency clock still ticking down to when he would be potentially available for the Scots, but he gets called up by the Boks here. So another astute bit of business from Rassie, but he's had to look at loose heads because Steenekamp and Kunu being injured, Kitsoff having retired, so the depth there is just genuinely going to be a bit more tested. Even though then you've still got Lowe has been incredible form for the Bulls this year. Ox is still there, even if the Sharks scrum was under a bit of pressure in the URC kind of playoffs against the Bulls. But I think you're still pretty well stacked in props, and it's going to be exciting to see some of the uncapped guys get a go at test level. Locks, I am very pleased to see Lut Diacha back because we haven't seen him play for the Boks for years. I think he had a pretty unscathed season in Japan, so fingers crossed he is back and ready to go, because that dude is world class. He's 32, so he's still got a bit of gas in the tank if he is again back fit. Ebbins had issues with concussion, so fingers crossed he's all good. Jean-Luc Dupria managed to get himself a call-up. None of the Dupria boys have really been favourites of Rassie in his tenure, but by all accounts he's been having a pretty good season. I haven't seen much of him playing for Sale over in the Premiership, but Tony Brown mentioned that they are keeping an eye on the players all around the world, and the ones who are in good form and the ones who are off the pace a bit. So Jean-Luc's call-up seems to be reward for a bit of good form. The other guys, Klein, Murat, Mostert, and Nokia, Sneeman and whatnot, seems pretty steady as she goes. As I said, I'm just really chuffed for Lut Diacha to finally be back. Lucy's, there's a couple of interesting calls. Evan Roos potentially benefits because he missed out on the initial 50-odd man squad. But with Augustus, brutal for that guy getting injured after, upping his game over in the Premiership, having left South Africa. Potentially coming back, a better player to play for the Boks. Then he's unavailable through injury. But his injury and Hanekom's injury seems to have worked out well for Evan Roos, especially when Jasper Wiese's, he missed half the Japanese season with a neck injury as well. So number 8, potentially doors open there for Evan Roos to get a go after, as I said, initially missing out. And then Chituka and Wiese, that's Kobus Wiese, the other kind of uncapped guys in the loose forwards or lock loose forward roles. Wiese, busy season with the Bulls. And then Chituka, like sometimes I would watch the Sharks games and be a bit perplexed by what I was seeing, because I'm not the first guy to say it, but some of the Springboks guys looked pretty average for the Sharks. But Chituka was having, I think, a pretty good season, man. Big hard tackler, good work rate. Busy at line-out time as well, so good line-out option. So I think a bit of good reward for his form. And then the other guys, Khaleesi and Smith and Van Staden and whatnot. So you're pretty stacked with your Lucy's as well. But again, it's another one where you should be excited, I think, to see some of the inexperienced guys get a turn. The backs is a little bit more stable because Ethan Hooker is the only uncapped guy in the mix. He's young at 22. I think him and Kane Moody are the youngest guys in the squad. It's interesting though, because Rassie mentioned Ethan Hooker basically saying they see him as a 13, even if the Sharks have been using him on the wing for the most part. But he's certainly been, elusive on the ball carry, getting himself into all kinds of space. De Klerk, Reinach, Van der Berg, and Williams, those are your halfbacks. Williams hasn't played since, I think, April. He's been out injured, so good to see him back in the squad. Hopefully he's fit. And then De Klerk and Reinach are certainly the senior guys at 33 and 35. Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu has certainly been the main hype train guy of South African rugby for quite some time. That train got a little bit derailed when the Stormers fell out of the URC at the playoff stages, but talented player. It's going to be great to see him add to his 8 caps, and they've got the other guys like Libok and Pollard, and Damien Willems is back as well. I'm not sure when he's available though, because I know he is serving a suspension for getting a red card for the Stormers. The midfield is looking a bit senior. I mean, Hooker, as I said, if they see him as a 13, that brings the average age down a wee bit. But Dale Ender's 33, Esterhazen 31, and Creel's 31. I mean, Esterhazen's been, again, busy for the Sharks on the carrying and busting tackles and doing what Andre Esterhazen does. And then Lucanio being out, again, maybe potentially opens the door for Ethan Hooker to slot him. But, yeah, it's more senior than some other areas of the squad, with Hooker bringing the average age down. Outside backs, as I said, Mapimpi, despite the fact that he's 34, has been in good form. I'm pretty comfortable with his call-up. Arendse, Colby, Mapimpi, Moody, Van der Merwe, Fussy, and LaRue. LaRue will likely get to 100 caps if they play him in 2 of the games. Obviously not the Barbars game, because that won't get a test cap, but 100 caps will be a massive achievement for him. He's one of the guys that cops a bit of flack in terms of, if they are looking at the age aspect, thinking that this is the guy who needs to retire, but it'll be fantastic to see any guy get to 100 caps. What a servant to your country if you can get to that point. But yeah, that's the squad. Looks like Rassie seems to have lost a bit of weight as well. I know he's had some health concerns, but he was looking healthy, which is pleasing, because there were times last year where he was not looking a well man. But he's looking, seemingly pumped to get his side back into action. As I said, it seems to just be, for whatever the outside appearance is worth, he seems to be in pretty good nick, which is pleasing. First game this weekend against the Barbars, 2 games against the Italians, then 1 against the Georgians. Boks are going to be massive favourites for all these games, so it is a chance for Rassie to do a bit of experimentation. I will be very curious because you never know what that guy is going to do. It's a hard man to predict, but yeah, I look forward to seeing some of these uncapped guys get themselves into the mix, and some of the other guys who've been either out with injury or out of the Boks squad for a while get themselves back into the mix as well. Some of the guys who were initially in the squad and ended up being dropped, the Hendrickson boys, Q and Horn, Renzo Duplessis and whatnot, you may see those guys back if injuries strike. And it seems like some of the guys who've not been in the mix for a wee while, like Ambrose Papier and Marcel Coetzee, seems like it's a hard road for those guys to get themselves back in, because there's so many, like there's 4 halfbacks in there. For Papier to get in, he'd have to displace somebody else, and then he's still only like the kind of 5th cab off the rank, so it would be a tough one. But you guys let us know your thoughts on the Boks squad. As I mentioned, I think the expectations have to be 4 from 4 from the fixtures this June, July, and hopefully a bit of experimentation which sees some potential new combinations, and we'll see what kind of rugby, Felix Jones and Tony Brown and whatnot have got these guys playing. But you guys let us know your thoughts. Is the squad too big? Is it getting too old? Are you comfortable with the balance? Subscribe to the channel, folks, if you haven't done so already. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.